On solidarity ahead of SADC Sanctions Day on the 25th of October, the Politburo expressed its gratitude to SADC member countries that have stood with us and have given meaningful and active solidarity to the party, government and the people of Zimbabwe as they confront the illegal sanctions needlessly imposed on us for taking back our land. The President reiterated that the land reform program is irreversible and therefore maintaining these sanctions will not change anything. The Politburo also expressed sincere gratitude to the AU, African Union member countries, to China, Russia, members of the non-aligned movement, progressive civil society rights movements in the USA, in particular the December 12 movement, progressive nations of the world, and eminent personalities across the globe who have joined the people of Zimbabwe, government, and His Excellency the President in calling out for the unconditional removal of these illegal sanctions. In particular, the Politburo has indicted the opposition and its proxies in the civil societies who called for these sanctions to reflect on 25th of October this year, and we join SADC and the progressive world in apologizing for their complicity in the imposition of and continuation of these heinous sanctions. On the December Annual People's Conference, as you may be aware, there was a report presented by our national chairman, Comrade Muchinguri, on the state of preparedness to hold the National People's Conference. The constitution, our party constitution, makes it imperative to hold the National People's Conferences annually. However, in line with COVID-19 level 2 restrictions currently obtaining, the Politburo resolved that having done well to contain the COVID-19 disaster as compared to other countries, and I'll get Comrade Dr. Parenyatwa basically to say something more fully on the COVID issue as affecting Zimbabwe. The party must not, of course, we resolve that the party must not be carried away. So in terms of national emergencies such as COVID-19, the priority of the party should be to protect the lives of people and the security of our nation. We deliberated on various options available on holding the conference, with some suggestions saying we can hold it virtually in compliance with the COVID-19 level 2 restrictions. And then there was a suggestion which carried the day. It was to postpone it indefinitely and to hold it when the situation normalizes and improves. And this came after very lively, honest, and frank discussions, and we took into account, of course, that His Excellency has on many occasions said we must put priority on protecting the lives of our people. We had then a number of disciplinary hearings. The report was given by our national chairman, Comrade Opa Muchinguri Kashiri. There was a report from Shonaland West Provincial Executive Council which recommended the suspension of Comrade Dexter Nduna from holding a position in the party for a year. And the recommendation also had gone further to say he must be enrolled at the Chitepo School of Ideology. After consideration of this matter, the Politburo endorsed the recommendation from Mashonaland West Province, in particular to suspend him from holding a party position for a year. He will remain a card-carrying member. That is the decision on Comrade Nduna from Mash West. He's a member of parliament. He will be suspended from holding any party position for a year, but he will remain an ordinary card-carrying member. Then there was the issue of Comrade Apollonia Mujerengwi, She hails from Machist, and she's also a Minister of State for that province. The National Women's League had recommended her redeployment from the position of Commissar of the Women's League to the position of Deputy Secretary for Lands, that is in their National Women's League. The Politburo has endorsed the decision of the Women's League to redeploy Comrade Mutserengwi from her position as Women's League Political Commissar to Deputy Secretary for Lands. Then we had another case from Mati North, the case of Tamuka Nyoni. The Provincial Disciplinary Committee from Mati North had recommended his expulsion from the party. The National Disciplinary Committee rescinded the expulsion and changed this sentence to a suspension for 5 years from holding a party position, but Comrade Tamuka Nyoni will remain an ordinary card-carrying member. So we endorsed the decision of the National Disciplinary Committee. Then we had the case of Comrade Chipanga Kudzanai from Manicaland. As you are aware, he was expelled from the party in November 2017 for his activities and alignment with the G40 elements, who did much damage to the party, causing mayhem and disunity within the party. He applied to be readmitted. First in 2018, then again in January this year. The Politburo, after taking into account the pivotal role that Kudzanai Chipanga played in driving the G40 agenda, carrying out its activities, and the gravity of the offenses that he committed, not just against the party, but against the party and the party leadership. The Politburo has seen fit to turn down completely his application to rejoin the party. The Politburo also noted, of course, that during the G40 activities, he was put on a farm which had been set aside to establish a Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences. This was in terms of to reward him for his involvement in G40 activities. This farm had been allocated and set aside right from the initial inception of the land reform program as far back as 2001, pending availability of resources by the state to set up a Manicaland State Universities. In disregard of that decision, the G40 elements, Kasukwere in particular and Professor Jonathan Moyo, to reward him for his involvement, put him on that farm which had been set aside for Manicaland State University. And of course, the decision of the Politburo is that he must vacate that farm forthwith to pave way for the setting up of the University of Manicaland. The case of Makosini Hlongwane from Midlands, procedurally, the matter came to the Politburo or to the National Disciplinary Committee without following the correct procedures. The correct procedure is that this matter should have been first referred to the PCC of Midlands, and accordingly, the Politburo is directed that this matter be referred back to the PCC Midlands province. Then the case of Tapiwa Matanga is the Midlands, also from Midlands. He also applied for readmission Again, the Politburo said the procedures must be followed, and this matter is also been referred back to the PCC of Midlands Province. There was a presentation by Comrade Mangwana, who is Secretary for Legal Affairs. This was just to inform of an intention, not yet adopted, of an intention to seek the views of our membership on the desirability of establishing a council of elders, which will be constituted, of course, by former senior members of the party. He has been given a go-ahead to proceed with that project and to report when he has completed his consultations, and he will then come back to the Politburo to advise specifically what the proposal would entail. There was also a presentation by the national chairman in his capacity as the chairman of the Cabinet Task Force on COVID-19. I want to ask my colleague, Comrade Dr. Parenyatwa, to give the outcome of the deliberations by the Politburo on that issue.
Thank you very much. There was a lot of discussion, the Politburos, after the report from the chairperson of the task force on COVID. And it is quite clear that COVID is still with us in this country. And the country, through the leadership of His Excellency, has performed very well in containing COVID-19. We therefore need to continue to guard against the reversal of these gains. There are a lot of people who are going to yapera, agusistina. It is not true. In fact, we should guard against and avoid complacency with regard to COVID-19. And a lot of discussion was held, and as you know, there's a current evidence of resurgence of COVID-19 in the UK, in Spain, in the USA, in India, in Brazil. The figures are very high there. And this should really beckon us to be on very high alert in our own region and certainly in our own country. The relaxation by the general population on the wearing of masks, people are not wearing masks, and failure to observe social distances, and also failure to wash hands often is a manifestation of that complacency. We urge our people to continue to wear masks properly, observe social distancing, and continue regular hand washing. The strategy and the strategic approach taken by His Excellency the President to contain the COVID-19 pandemic in the country really should be applauded if you compare it with what's happening within the region and in the world generally. To date, the current number of positive cases is just over 8,000, with 6,683 recoveries, and then 233 deaths. It gives us a case fatality rate of 3%, which is really the normal average of, when you say case fatality rate is the number of people, the percentage of people who are dying out of the infection. All measures continue to be taken to protect the lives of all the people of Zimbabwe from the pandemic and from other diseases. Currently, there is no treatment, no vaccine for COVID-19. The party therefore continues to encourage the strengthening of infection control as we reopen our schools. As you know, our schools are being reopened, and there is really particular need to care for our children who are going back to school. And also the party welcomes the resumption of domestic and international flights to Zimbabwe. But we must be alert to the history of how COVID was introduced into the country. We therefore call on extra vigilance and thorough screening at our ports of entry, because this is how it first was introduced into the country. It came from outside the country. And now as we reopen our borders, when our situation has been a bit stable, or the situation is actually getting better, we now open our borders, so we must be very, very careful whom we let in, whether they've been tested, and what is their status. We continue to encourage the local manufacture of face masks, because there was a shortage, but now people are making these face masks in the country and other protective personal clothing. And we continue as a party to mobilize awareness on COVID-19 in our provinces across the country, so that we can contain and manage COVID-19. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, just to add to what Dr. Parenyatwa has already said, we are not beating our chest. We've done very well in terms of management of the COVID-19 situation, protecting the lives of our people. And we, in the WHO ratings, we are being rated quite highly. It starts from number 1. The most serious cases are number 1. And then the less serious as you progress. And we are at 138, where in fact other countries, the United States probably is number one.
Yeah.
It's number 1. We are rated 138 in terms of our ability and the way we have managed to minimize and reduce the risk of COVID-19 to our people. So my appeal to you, which Dr. Parenyatwa has done, is that to our people, please maintain the regulations. Keep washing your hands regularly. Wear your masks, and also keep social distancing. The National Commissar was also on the agenda.
But you're not keeping social distance.
The National Commissar was also on the agenda, and I would want to give him the opportunity to give the press, in summary form, the deliberations of the Politburo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe to start with, I've got to indicate that there was massive interest in our members, wanting to represent the party in the DCC structures. And that shows us that the party is very popular, and many people, both the young, the old, women, and men, want to have got interest in representing the party. And to us, that is a cause for joy. We had to do first receiving the CVs for the interested people, and like I've said, there were many. And after having received them, we had set criteria that were supposed to follow, which we did, and the Security Department also got its share on vetting, and this has since been completed. We have been given direction today that we take the lists, both that of the successful and those that failed, back to the provinces, so that people are informed if they have succeeded and if they failed. If should they want to appeal, there is limited time, but they are going to be allowed to appeal, and those that will not be knowing what caused them to fail, they will be told exactly what the reasons are. So after that, then we will be given an election date. And this is, in summary, what is going to happen. And the direction is that this should have been completed by the end of 2 weeks. And I think we are going to do it much earlier because we do not want to let our people continue campaigning and so forth, because that is not very healthy for the party, although it shows activity. But we want it to be at least done for a limited period. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Matemadanda. Just to add to what the Commissar has already said, I want to underline the fact that it's the PCCs who are going to run the DCC elections.
Yes.
Correct. But they will do so under guidelines given them by the National Political Commissar. But the responsibility to run the DCs is that of the PCC, under the guidelines given to them by the National People's Commissar, National Political Commissar. Is there something?
Yeah.
Then just to say that the issue of whether civil servants can participate, the answer is no. The relevant regulations governing civil servants do not allow civil servants or a member of the civil servant to act in a partisan manner, to further the interests of any political party or cause, to prejudice the lawful interests of any political party or cause, or to become a member and office bearer of any political party. I say this because we have witnessed, I'm sure the National People's Political Commissar will confirm, that there have been heightened interest from some of the teachers, civil servants, to participate in the DCC elections. The law does not allow. So that message should also go out. Finally, to announce that we are going to hold in a virtual anti-sanctions gala in Bulawayo Rainbow Towers on the evening of the 24th, going into the morning of the 25th, which is the SADC Anti-Sanctions Day. Because it's virtual, you are not invited. You will enjoy it from the comfort of your home. I thought I should make that announcement. We have already begun flighting some anti-sanctions messages and themes, basically calling for the removal of sanctions which have been imposed against Zimbabwe. I think I conclude my brief. Over to you, Director.
Thank you very much, Comrade Spokesperson, Acting Spokesperson. I'm pretty sure you are very particular about that one. Thank you also very much, Comrade Secretary for Health and the Elderly, Comrade Parenyatwa. Thank you, most importantly, the National Commissar. You know, is a rare feature here at the headquarters because he's always, as it were, Musango. And is the reason why when we come here, myself and Comrade Chinamasa, we can emphatically and fearlessly say that if the party does not, and the president does not win by over 65% of the vote in 2023, we'll probably quit a day from this department, because we know that we have tough comrades who are working on the ground to make that realization in each target. So without wasting much of your time, colleagues from the fourth state, it's your opportunity to seek clarifications by way of asking questions and empty your chest on any other matters that you do feel you need to raise before leadership. We always, Comrade Matemadanda, take this opportunity very seriously, because it is where we feel that colleagues from the fourth state can seek very deep clarifications on issues before they go and print, quite unfortunately, black, bold, false headlines that we are doing this or we have said this, which then probably amounts to misrepresentation. So the opportunity is yours, colleagues. Feel free to ask on any other issues that you feel you want to ask. But don't forget, you also
your input is required on the 25th of October to call for the unconditional removal of sanctions, illegal sanctions in this country, as the leadership has said. So the opportunity is yours, colleagues.
I must commend you after the robust exchange we had last week on ethical journalism. I have no complaint about how you reported us last week.
Yeah.
Long may it remain. Like I said, in future, because most of what we say here is recorded. Next time I see that there is a blatantly fake news, I will not hesitate to ask and demand a meeting with your editor, and would want to know, is it the editor or was it you who misquoted? Like I said, if we blunder here, report it. That's what we are there for. But please don't create fake news. It's not good for you as an individual in terms of ethics. It's not good for our country. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for the profession of journalism. So, any questions?
Yeah, I think it's out of this clarification that place you wrote a very good and interesting, probably the first patriotic story that we have read from you. Well done for that. Yeah, just on the place, it's your opportunity to ask leadership, any one of them.
Thank you.
Speak aloud so that they can hear you.
My question, I just have a couple of questions. The first question on the speech that was delivered by the president. When he spoke about people who are using the party to hide under corrupt activity, saying that those malcontents will now not be allowed to stay in the party. I wanted to just find out. There was a commission that His Excellency set up to investigate allegations of corruption. This commission is set and done anything? And also, are there any names of malcontents in the party that the president might deliberately warn? Then another person would be on Kudzai Chipanga. The party commented that it should be moved from the farm that, as you say, was supposed to build a state at university. I wanted to find out why that recommendation, given that the land has a responsibility of the state. The university that needs to be built is also a responsibility. So why the recommendation of moving from the farm coming from the party?
Yeah, let me tackle the last question. Any development, any activities of government are the responsibility of the party. The party formulates policies. The party carries an oversight on government activities, and government is expected to implement the policies of the party. Now, the policy of the party in the case of tertiary institutions, universities, is to set up a state university in each province. And it set aside farms on which the Manicaland State University was to be set up. Because of the machinations and activities of G40, they decided to award Chipanga by giving away one of the farms to him as a reward for his involvement and participation in driving the G40 agenda. And all that the party is saying is government must implement the development of a state university in Manicaland. That basically is the bottom line of what the Politburo is saying. There must be equity, as you all know. The other state universities are all up and running, but not quite Manicaland to the same extent. I need to point out here that Chipanga himself agrees, and he knows that he was put there for very immoral reasons, and he is agreeable to moving. And also the Minister of Lands, starting with Comrade Shiri, had already given him a notice of withdrawal, a notice of intention for him to vacate. And Dr. Masuka, the new minister, is already aware and will be undertaking that, implementing that decision to have land set aside for Manicaland State University, in the same way that state universities have been set aside in other provinces. On the issue you mentioned about corruption, His Excellency, I think, right from the way agrees, and he knows that he was put there for very immoral reasons, and he is agreeable to moving. And also the Minister of Lands, starting with Comrade Shiri, had already given him a notice of withdrawal, a notice of intention for him to vacate. And Dr. Masuka, the new minister, is already aware and will be undertaking that, implementing that decision to have land set aside for Manicaland State University, in the same way that state universities have been set aside in other provinces. On the issue you mentioned about corruption, His Excellency, I think, right from the word go, has been very consistent on this issue, that he will not protect any person who gets himself or herself involved in any corrupt activities, and that the axe must fall where it is due to fall. So in this regard, if there is any person, and this is what the President is saying, if there is any person who hides behind the name of the party to justify corrupt activities, the party will not protect him. And ZAC must do his work, the police must do its work, and carry out, after investigations, of course, after a prima facie case is established, must carry out their mandate to root out any corruption from our society. And I'm sure that of recent, you are aware that there's been a lot of ZAC and police action taken against alleged land barons in Harare and also in Chitungwiza. And this action by the ZAC, by the police, will no doubt continue, because we are endorsing every step of the way that the police and ZAC is taking to root out corruption from our society.
Thank you very much for the question. Comrade Matimadanda, do you have anything to add?
I think yes.
Yes, Ruben. Kuma Ruben, your hand was up.
You talked about the apology which must come from those who you allege might have offered sanctions government, or those who want sanctions to remain. How do they apologize? They must apologize to
You know, I'm not sure I did say that, but yeah. But anyway, let's take MDC. Let's take MDC. As we all know, they were founded and funded by the Westminster Foundation, primarily to oppose the land issue. So they were complicit in asking for the imposition of sanctions. They were complicit in opposing the land redistribution program. They have been complicit since then in asking for their continuation as a punitive measure. First, the sanctions were put there to reverse the land reform program. When they found it's not possible, it's now irreversible, they are continuing them now as a punitive measure, and as I mentioned last time, to act as a deterrence to other countries not to embark on land redistribution program like we did, like what ZanuPf did in Zimbabwe. So, but we do have members of MDC who have recanted, who have basically said, we were wrong. We oppose the empowerment of our people. And I think that in this regard, Madam Coupe, he basically is now singing a different song on the issue of sanctions. She's now calling along with us for the unconditional removal of sanctions. But you get your Chamisa, your Biti, your Colters, they remain unrepentant. And what we are saying is, it's never too late to say to the people of Zimbabwe, whom they've caused so much suffering, to say we are sorry, we should never have asked for those sanctions. That alone, I think, will be a very therapeutic statement coming from them to the people of Zimbabwe.
Yeah, thank you very much for the response. Yeah, just to add on to what Comment Chinamasa has said, it is important for us to know that we have a historical problem with Britain and the EU, in that the Royal Charter
in the United States
that was used to oppress this country was authored and authorized by Her Majesty. It rods on oppressing or colonizing this country. He was doing it on behalf of the Queen Mother. This is why you saw at independence, the Queen had to send Lord Solms to come and manage the election. So we have a traditional problem, if you like, with Britain, America, and the European Union. People say America never colonized any country, and that is true. But they are the biggest sponsors of colonialism because they benefited more. If you want to go back to history, slave trade, they benefited much on slave trade than any other countries. You know the history of their plantations and so forth. Now, it's now like tinemusha maperera hama zedu kufa. Mwana wedu Ruben oinda onoroora mumusha imomu. Vabereki kuti no, you don't do that. Makuweza unaona akabva mumusha umu. Ruben oti same sina visiwa now. Inindova ndina I am a phone call away from them. You are a phone call away from vanhu vakazadza makuva kana vanhu vachinda kuchimoyo kunyadzonya na mpundwe kumkushi vari kuninda kunoona vanhu vakaurawa neBritain neAmerica. And we cannot, not one of us should hope that in their normal senses the Americans can ever want to see a black Reuben Barwe progressing, especially after the land reform. They will not want that. So, your question was, who should they apologize to? He rightly said, the people of Zimbabwe. Because this is a historical question. When we went to war, we had about 8 national grievances. And the prime grievance was the question of alienation from the land of our forefathers. And who did it? It's Britain, supported by who? America and the European Union. And for one of our people that benefited from one of the policies of free education from the independent Zimbabwe to go and say, I want to align with the Americans and the British, it's unfortunate. And it is cause for asking for apology. Thank you.
In fact, I always say and regret that you have very educated Zimbabweans. A majority of them educated by ZanuPf since independence. And they use their education to spite their country. They use their eloquence to undermine the economy of their country, to put into disrepute the very country which educated them. That is very regrettable, very disappointing. You don't get that in respect of other societies. Other societies, they are very patriotic. Even when they go into the diaspora, they learn skills, they come back to build their country so that their country can prosper. When they acquire any resources outside the country, they bring them back home in order to enrich their own country. But we do not find that kind of thing within our own population, which is why as a party we are going to take strategies on how to mobilize our population in the diaspora in terms of party participation. This is something that we've been discussing, especially with the Commissar, and we have been very clear that we need to reactivate the participation of our people in the diaspora so that they take an interest in their own country, in the economic, social, educational welfare of their people. So this is work in hand.
Thank you very much. I'm taking the last two questions. These two gentlemen were a party that is sensitive to gender balance. I thought we were going to have a different voice from the ladies in terms of questions today. I don't know whether you... Let me go to the guys. The tallest guy behind the camera. Identify yourself so that I'm sure this is your first time.
Yeah, something like I requested for PC and also so the PC is in the event that we have people who are already occupying party positions, they will also bring public office bearers. Correct me if I'm wrong, say maybe in the past something that was not clear pronounced. But in the event that we do have people who are public office bearers who already have party positions, what will happen?
Yes.
And to my spoke to the folks, what are the expected outcomes of the anti-sanctions move to Gaza? And also, do you foresee the countries that impose sanctions on Zimbabwe being moved by such a move?
Those are your questions. Take note of them. Leadership, yes. Identify yourself as well, and then speak a bit louder.
My name is Tyson. My question is, as a party, what is your position in regards to events happening in Nigeria?
Sorry?
As a party, what is your position in regards to events?
I know on that one, I'll take that completely out.
Yeah. We are not Nigeria.
Policy is non-interference in the internal affairs
Indeed.
of sister republic, especially when there are issues that have been peddled on social media, most of which have no basis at all. So we have refused social media to set the agenda for the party. So that question doesn't come up.
In fact, I thought that you remember in 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we had a similar relational situation between us in South Africa. And how did we resolve it? That is the answer. Non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries.
Anything on the Netflix launch
Yes, yes, but we asked the province from which she hailed from to write to us, to inform us formally, and what their recommendations may be, if any. We never discussed any substantive issues pertaining to her status or otherwise. That is left to the province from which she comes from. They will, like is the practice, they will make their recommendations and it will come to the Politburo, then the Politburo will decide. As of now, we have nothing before us, but just information that she passed on.
May also rest in peace. Comrade Matimadanda, on the question of civil servants, then maybe from us also.
I think this is more of a legal question. Comrade Chinamasa, his other profession is a land fellow. He can, I think, answer that one. But what I think is that laws are made, and when they are made, they should be applied. Well, pane vanhu vakatadza mutemo usati wavepo vakaitwa sei?
Are there any?
But I'm saying when laws are there, obviously they should be applied and they should affect all the people.
Okay,
but I think every case will be taken.
Wasn't there an exception for councillors?
Yeah, because they're politicians.
Probably all the same comments.
Yes. For once, I don't have an immediate answer for you. First, I'm not aware of any civil servants who are holding party positions. I'm not aware. But if there are, it's not permitted. If it's not permitted, it's up to the aggrieved to raise it so that those people will cease occupying positions in government. But I seem to recall, this is why I say, please give me, I want you to apologize profusely. I seem to recall that there was a dispensation given with respect to councils, the need for a quality leadership to lead councils. And I'm not sure whether there was an exemption on those who were teachers that they could participate. This is something that I can take home and come and brief you more fully when I fully investigated. Because it was found that most councils, especially in rural areas, did not have quality leadership who would be able to read the balance sheet or to understand what a budget is. And I think there was some exemption given to allow party people, teachers, to participate in elections. Obviously, when they do so, they participate under the ban of a political party. But this was purely a specific exemption, if I recall. But if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself next time we have this brief. But this was specific exemption for councils, rural district councils. Then, of course, the other question, what is the expected outcomes of e-Gala? First, we are raising the awareness among our population. We are raising awareness globally, regionally, continentally, and globally. And it is through this solidarity that we hope one day those countries which have imposed sanctions on us will yield to the international pressure. Right now, because they are superpowers, they don't care. But if we remain persistent and insistent that sanctions must be removed unconditionally, and they become isolated, as they are currently isolated, one day they will remove. In international politics, solidarity is very important. And you again say, will these countries be moved? I think the answer remains the same. We have been agitating, as you know, as third world countries, especially as Africa. We are not represented on the Security Council. But we have been agitating for representation. And we will continue agitating for representation as a continent for as long as it takes. Will they be moved? Given their racism and racist attitude, it will take time. But that should not be an excuse for us to let up on that fight for representation on the Security Council. This sort of thing will not be happening if we were also represented. We will not let up on the demand and call for unconditional removal of sanctions against Zimbabwe and against other countries also, Sudan, against Venezuela, Cuba. Cuba, by the way, has been with them since 1960 or thereabouts. 60 years. So you can see how skewed the power structure in the international communities is concerned. The superpowers act in complete disregard of the rules they set up themselves. The rules they set up themselves is that any lawful sanction should be by the Security Council. Anything else outside that is a declaration of war. And in our case, as you know, we have those declared sanctions. Those sanctions, declared or undeclared, are illegal in international law. But of course, the fact that there are big powers, they will get away with it. But not forever.
Quite very clearly articulated by the comrade spokesperson. I must take this opportunity, comrade acting spokesperson, comrade national political commissar, as we say goodbye to you, because we know that you already missed the wilderness, the situation. In the contemporary, these are our villages, our communities where you spend the time mobilizing for the party. So, and of course, Dr. Parlenyatwa, we thank you for gracing this special occasion, the post-political special brief. So until we convene again, ladies and gentlemen, we see you on the unsanctioned day, of course, from the comfort of your homes, as we call for the unconditional removal of sanctions. Thank you very much for coming.